The financial information provided in these lectures is for informational purposes only and not for the purpose of providing specific financial advice. Financial investing carries an inherent risk that you will lose part or all of your investment. Investors must independently and thoroughly research and analyze each and every investment prior to investing. The consequences of such risk may involve, but are not limited to, federal, state, municipal tax liabilities, loss of all or part of the investment capital, loss of interest, contract liability to third parties, and other risks not specifically listed herein. Use of these lectures does not create any financial advisor relationship with the teaching company or its lecturers, and neither the teaching company nor the lecturer is responsible for your use of this educational material or its consequences. You should contact a financial advisor to obtain advice with respect to any specific financial investing questions. The opinions and positions provided in these lectures reflect the opinions and positions of the relevant lecturer and do not necessarily reflect the opinions or positions of the teaching company or its affiliates. Pursuant to IRS Circular 230, any tax advice provided in these lectures may not be used to avoid tax penalties or to promote, market, or recommend any matter therein. The teaching company expressly disclaims liability for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, or consequential damages or lost profits that result directly or indirectly from the use of these lectures. In states that do not allow some or all of the above limitations of liability, liability shall be limited to the greatest extent allowed by law. Your lecturer is Dr. Raymond P. DeGennaro. Dr. DeGennaro is the CBA professor in banking and finance at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. He also has served as a visiting scholar at the Federal Reserve Banks of Cleveland and Atlanta and for the American Institute for Economic Research. Dr. DeGennaro holds a Ph.D. in finance from The Ohio State University. He has published extensively on investments, financial market volatility, small firm finance, financial institutions, and other topics, and has received more than 50 research and professional development grants. Dr. DeGennaro is also a luminary member of the Angel Capital Group.
Just like every other walk of life, the stock market has been transformed by computer technology. Who would have thought just a few decades ago that one day you could sit at home and trade stocks in your pajamas via the internet? But if you think you're on equal footing with the big players in the market, think again. Your modern phone and internet connection lets you do in seconds what used to take weeks, but with the equipment that really high-tech investors use, it takes them only milliseconds to seize opportunities you'll never even see. How can you compete with that? Let me give you a clearer picture of what I'm talking about. Imagine that you're sitting at home, sipping coffee, and watching your computer screen track the price of a security that interests you. Suddenly you see a huge spike looking almost like a vertical bar. It goes up and down again in the blink of an eye. It's so fast that it barely registers on your screen. That's no surprise. Your screen shows several minutes of price history, and that spike took just 275 milliseconds. That's just over a quarter of a second. You blink, there's the spike, and you say, "Wonder what that was." I'll tell you what that was. It was a high-tech computer algorithm placing and canceling dozens and even hundreds of buy and sell orders. Imagine zooming in on that 275 millisecond spike so that it fills the entire screen. If you could do that, then you'd see all kinds of detail that just wasn't there before. That's what a high-tech trader sees, or rather what his computer sees. Some algorithms exploit tiny differences in bid and ask quotes and execution prices. Reported quotes are in pennies, but trades might be executed at prices out to 6 decimal places. No human is going to waste time worrying about 1/10,000th of a cent. Computers, though, are happy to exploit these tiny differentials. These powerful computers and the brilliant minds behind them can make a lot of money for big institutional traders. A fraction of a cent multiplied by billions of shares begins to add up. So how do you keep up with the folks who operate computers like that? The answer, I'm afraid, is you can't. Now, you could take that bit of news as extremely discouraging. It's easy to think of picking stocks like trying to beat Tiger Woods at golf in his prime. You don't have his natural ability, and you haven't put in the countless hours of practice year after year after year. You could never win, so why bother to play? But millions of people do play golf, and for reasons I've never quite understood, they even seem to enjoy it. They're playing golf for different reasons than the ones that motivated Tiger Woods. And you know what? For these millions of golfers, that's just fine. I treat investing the same way that these millions of people treat golf. I know I'm not going to beat the best of the best. They're going to beat me, along with millions of other investors, out of a penny or so every once in a while. But I'm not going to let that keep me from investing because there's still plenty of money to be made doing it. I'll just focus on keeping my investment program on the fairway and out of the water hazards. That works just fine for me and for millions of other investors. In this course, I'm going to show you how to do that. We'll explore what stock really is, how it's bought and sold, and common mistakes that investors make. I'll help you learn to think about stocks in ways that will let you better understand the things you see and hear about the stock market. We'll develop the foundation that will equip you to get into the market yourself, to evaluate new opportunities, and to keep learning in this huge and changing investment landscape. Let's begin by taking a look at how not to invest. Here's some valuable advice that you may not be expecting. Don't waste your time and money trying to beat the market. Did I really just say that? Yes, I did. Did you know that only about a quarter of all stock funds managed by professional money managers beat the average market return during any given time period? It's true. Year after year, most professional money managers aren't able to match the market return. Perhaps even more surprising, the guys who beat the market in one year usually aren't the ones who beat it in the next year. It almost seems as if beating the market is just luck. There's a good reason that even professional money managers have trouble beating the market. It's called competition. Thousands and thousands of investors are bidding to buy and sell stocks. If prices get too high, then those sellers push them back down. If prices get too low, then buyers push them back up. That means that stock prices are usually very close to being fair, and that means that it's really hard to pick the stocks that will be winners. Professor Burton Malkiel of Princeton University studied the returns of 358 stock funds from 1970 through 2012. The first thing he learned was that 266 of them, or almost 3/4 of them, were no longer in business. Malkiel says he's confident that the 266 funds that didn't survive did even worse than the survivors. And that makes sense. Bad funds should go out of business eventually. That leaves 92 surviving funds. How did they do relative to the market? 42 of the remaining 92 funds pretty much matched the market. Their returns were within 1% of the overall market's return. That left 18 funds that beat the market by more than 1% and 32 funds that lagged the market by more than 1%. That makes sense too. If the price is usually fair, not too high, not too low, then it should be really hard to find winners in the stock market. You might think that you could do just as well by throwing darts at a list of stocks as you could by studying the stock market. In fact, most economists who study stocks think that's not so far from the truth. The idea that it's almost impossible to pick winners consistently has a formal name. It's called the efficient market hypothesis, and it was a big part of the reason that Eugene Fama won the Nobel Prize in 2013. We'll talk more about the efficient market hypothesis later in the course, but for now, all we need to know is that lots of research shows that stock returns are very close to random. They move up or down unpredictably, meaning that picking winners is really hard. Many people don't want to hear that. They want to make a quick profit, and every day they hear about this or that stock that went up. They figure that there just has to be a way to tell which ones will go up tomorrow. I can understand why they feel that way. Humans are hardwired to look for patterns. Uncertainty and randomness make us uncomfortable. We give names to things we don't understand, as if that'll give us some understanding or even control over uncertain events. If the stock market goes up or down for reasons we don't understand, then some people like to say, oh, that's just market psychology. Even though they don't understand it any more than they did before they named it, they feel better. I'm not a big fan of that approach. Saying that the market went up or down because of psychology doesn't help us make decisions about how we should invest. It just gives us a familiar term that we can attach to it. Let's not fall into that trap. Let's be honest with ourselves and just admit that we don't understand the forces that move the market that day. Psychology can still